Hi, this is David with David's Tutorials. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about pilot training days in the Air Force. I believe this is part 3, and this video is going to be about the class that I had of fellow students in pilot training and not about pilot training itself. It's going to be basically a chit-chat nattery video, so if you're not up for nattering, then you might want to go ahead to the next video, but this will be what I remember from some of the times back in pilot training days. As I've mentioned in an earlier video, I arrived at Laredo Air Force Base in Texas about 3 months before my pilot training class started, and I was hanging out on my own there for 3 months and doing additional duties. I actually had to do an investigation of an airman that was accused of something. I forgot what it was. And I had to get my car fixed because it gave out on the way from San Antonio to Laredo, and it basically blew the head. And I wound up going to the Jim Williams Motor Company, which I don't think is still in existence in Laredo, but it might be. And there I bought a demo model of a Fiat 124 Sport Coupe in brilliant sky blue. I love that car, except it wasn't very well made. It kept going bad. But when I went to register it on base, I went into the registration office and the airman behind the desk said, "Well, what color is it?" I said, "It's blue." And he said, "Is it dark blue or light blue?" And I looked at him and I said, I don't think it's either." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Come on outside and take a look." And so we walked outside and he looked at it and, "You're right, it's not dark blue and it's not light blue. I guess I'm just going to have to put down blue." So that was kind of a fun thing. Another thing I remember is our class one time was asked to be chaperones on a Boy Scout canoe trip. Now, there was a Boy Scout troop there in Laredo, and they, of course, had a lot of activities, and one of their activities was a canoe trip. And the leaders of the troop evidently could not find enough local people or parents in the group that would chaperone the trip or basically accompany it. And what they wanted to do, of course, the nearest body of water to Laredo is the Rio Grande. And they were going to go about 60 miles upriver and put the canoes in, and the boys would go down the river for a whole day, and then they would camp on the bank, and then they would come down the river the next day, and then be pulled out of the river right near the bridge into Mexico. Well, they wanted somebody to go with the troop in motorboats so that if anything went wrong, there would be a motorboat there that could take care of any exigency that happened to occur. So we checked out, I think, 4 or 5 little John boats, like fishing boats, that had, I think, 8 or 10 horsepower motors on the back. We checked those out from MWR. That stands for Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. And on all Air Force bases at that time, they had an MWR department that was in charge of all the recreation things at that base. And at this base, they had a number of John boats with motors that we could check out. And so we were able to get those boats and haul them up the river and put them in the water where the Boy Scouts were going to be putting in. And so we had, oh goodness, probably 3 of these motorboats. And there were maybe 3 of us class members in each boat. So math tells me we had probably 9 of our buddies that were accompanying the Boy Scouts. Now, we didn't associate with the Boy Scouts. We didn't know who any of them were, and they didn't know who we were. So we basically just stayed in sight of them. So we would zoom out ahead of them, maybe about a half a mile, and then we would stop and go out on the bank, and we would climb the cliffs and look at what was going on and check the vegetation and the wildlife and wait until the canoes went on by. And after the canoes had gone on by about 15 or 20 minutes, we'd come back down and get in our boats and go zooming past them and do it again. And we came to the overnight place, and some of our other classmates, the ones that had dropped off the boats and were going to meet us at the pullout point, they met us at the stopping point, and they had brought tents and food and all the good stuff like that. So we were able to camp overnight. We just had a good old time, and we were within sight of, but not there again associating with the Boy Scouts. We were just there in case they needed us, and fortunately it turned out they never needed us. I remember one incident as we were going down the river. We were ahead of the Boy Scouts, and there were a nest of buzzards up on the cliff, up on a couple of these scraggly trees that were up on the cliff. And our guys started yelling at them, and they started flying, and they were flying across the river into Mexico. Now, a couple of our guys had brought guns with them, and so they started taking pot shots at these buzzards. I wasn't quite sure why they did that. Maybe it was just the young male instinct to shoot at anything alive and try any wildlife and try to kill it. That's still prevalent in the world today. You don't want to kill it just for the sake of killing, but that's something totally different. But I remember one thing, as this buzzard was flying overhead, there was about 5 or 6 of them in the group, and one buzzard, when he started hearing these shots, he threw up a half of a rat. This was kind of, one of the things, I had never seen something like that before. It was just a very impressionable thing to witness, and they just flew off. And anyway, we had a good time on the river that day, and when we got down to the pull-out point, we were only about, a half a mile ahead of the canoes, and so we went ahead and pulled the boats out, and that was the end of that adventure. Now, another adventure we had a class patch, and in our class, we had basically 2 sections, one my section and the other section, and each section had about 30 to 35 student pilots in it, and we all became pretty close friends. And we knew the other class, and some of the people in the other class went to college with people in our class. Matter of fact, our particular class was 7102. We had about 40% of the class came from the Air Force Academy. And that was also called the Zoo, the Blue Zoo. And about 40% of the class came from ROTC graduates. That's Reserve Officer Training Corps. And after they went through college and they went through the ROTC courses and they graduated, they got their commission as a second lieutenant. And these particular individuals, they had been accepted into pilot training, and they were the ones in our class. That leaves 10% of our class. Maybe I should say it was 45% of each, and that left 10% of our class as officer training school. Now, I had a video here earlier that I talked about officer training school, and so I was one of the 10% that went to officer training school. And inevitably, our classes would get together and they would have a party, and they would meet some of the local people, and especially the girls. And I remember we were going over to some local person's residence, and we had a nice party like that. And there were several of the girls who would come. Of course, any of the local girls would love to come out and meet these brand new young second lieutenant people who were student pilots. And pilots in the Air Force are basically the people that the Air Force is all about, because the mission of the Air Force is to fly and fight, and don't you forget it. So we were going to be the ones who did the flying. So I remember one of the girls at the party came up to me and she said, "Did you go to the academy too?" And I grinned to her and I said, "No, I went to a real school." And I said that kind of loud because several of my classmates who went to the academy were standing nearby and they heard it. And one of them turned to me and he said, "I wish I'd gone to a real school." So that was, I wanted to get under their skin, kind of poke my thumb in their ribs, and it kind of worked out the other way. He was saying, "Yeah, I agree with you." So that was a kind of a fun incident. Now let me tell you about one more incident and then I'll be done. I told you about we had a class patch. The class voted on it. I was kind of an artist at the time, and I came up with 2 or 3 designs, and one I really liked. It showed this really tough guy with a four-day beard and a grimace on his face. And he was in a flight suit, and he had a control stick in his hand, and he was frowning and looking like he was really aggressive. And the title on the patch said Rio Grande Raiders. And I thought that was going to be a great patch, but unfortunately, the class didn't agree, and they had somebody else that came up with an idea. They wanted a bullfighter with a T-38 going under his cape and then going up like that, and you had the silhouette of the T-38. And they wanted to be the Spanish Flyers. So I redesigned that patch, and we had it made, and we had patches on our sleeve. And I had one, and after I graduated pilot training, I went into KC-135s, and they let me keep my helmet, of course, because all Air Force pilots have to have a helmet, and the helmet is kept in a helmet bag, and I had stitched that patch onto my helmet bag. Well, when we moved from Biloxi, Mississippi to my retirement place, the movers stole that bag with all the patches on it, and it had my flying logbooks in it, and I was very disappointed about that. So that was a sad thing. But we had that patch, and I don't have one I can show you right now. If I find one later on, I'll dig it up and I'll put it in a future Air Force UPT video. But we wanted to hang our patch from the base water tower. So over a period of about a month, a number of student pilots collected bed sheets. And we wound up having about 12 of them. And I think we had them 3 high and 4 across, made a great big rectangle that was just about exactly the same proportions as our patch. And so one night we took all these bed sheets over to one of our married classmates' houses, and his wife stitched them all into one great big sheet. Oh goodness, it was huge. And I did a sketch with a magic marker on this bed sheet of our patch, and it actually looked pretty good. And the rest of our classmates, they got paint, and we laid that bed sheet out at night in our classmates' backyard, and we painted the patch in the bright colors of our class patch. And we let it dry for about a week, and then we came back, and we had probably a dozen of us who were co-conspirators on this prank. And we got a bunch of walkie-talkies that were all on the same frequency. These were just like toy store walkie-talkies, but they worked over like 3 or 4 blocks. And so we each got a call sign, and we set it up so that there were 3 of us that would climb up the water tower and fasten the sheets, but the rest of the people, I'll say it, the rest of the conspirators, they would be stationed at various points around the perimeter, a block or 2 away from the water tower, to watch out for the SPs, the security police. At this point, it might have been the AP, the air police, and then later it evolved to security police. But anyway, it was the base police. Now they're not called security police or air police, they're called security forces. And sometimes they contract it out. But I digress. So we had the people up in the tower had bird names. We had Eagle 2, we had Bluebird, we had Raven. We had some people at the base of the tower. They had their own call signs. We each had our own call signs. And the ones that were at the perimeter watching for the security police, they had call signs with the first letter. And I forget what the call signs were, but the first letter indicated their direction from the tower. Like November was north, and they were at the northbound of the tower. And Edward was on the east, and they were on the east side of the tower. Edward is E, and NE would be Nevada, NE, Nevada. He was on the northeast side of the tower. So we would be at the base of the tower, and everybody would be in position, and the coordinator would say, Cardinal points, check in, November clear, Edward clear, and they would have all the way around the tower, and they would be saying that there were no security police in that area. So we were able to climb up the tower, and what we had some, I think it was 2x4s. The wife who had stitched up the sheets had stitched about a 6-inch loop in the top and a 6-inch loop in the bottom, and we had a 2x4 that we had slipped inside that loop, which would give it some good bracing at the top so it wouldn't sag, and some good bracing and weighting at the bottom so it would hang and look like it was a full patch and not just a wrinkled whatever it was. So we got up the tower, and we were on the catwalk around the water tower. Now I have a picture of this, and I spent probably an hour or two yesterday and today going through all of my old photographs, and I just couldn't find it. If my shirt looks a little dirty right now, it's because I was just up in the attic, and with my macular degeneration, I can't really see whether the shirt is dusty or dirty. I've brushed it off, but if it's worse than that right now, I'm sorry. I just apologize. Just bear with me. So we got up the tower, and we weren't doing anything except all of a sudden we got alert from one of our perimeter guards that Smokey's inbound. And we just froze, and we kind of crouched down on the catwalk and, sat back against the water tower so anybody from below, they wouldn't see us. And this security police patrol car, it drove up one side of the water tower, it drove down the other side of the water tower, and it came around again, and it parked right at the base of the water tower. Now the catwalk, it was on this PSP, or perforated steel planking. In other words, it was a piece of steel that had been stamped so it had holes all the way through it, maybe in like a diamond shape. So we could kind of see through the thing we were sitting on. And the security policemen, they got out of their car and they were shining their flashlights all around. They never looked up, but they shined it all around. And eventually they got on their radios and we could hear them saying something. And we could hear that, and they finally got in their car and they drove away. So we waited about 10 minutes. Now all I can figure is they had picked up our walkie-talkie transmissions, and they had zeroed in on where they were, which is, they knew we were in this area, and so they came and they were looking. Now, if they had caught us, the worst they could have got us for is going in an unauthorized area, like up the water tower. But we weren't hurting anything. So I really wasn't that worried about that. And the worst thing that would have happened to us, we would have gotten a finger shaken at us. You shouldn't be doing that. Yes, sir. But we went ahead and we fastened the patch sheet thing to the rail of the water tower, and we threw over the other one, and we came down to water tower, and we went home and we went to bed. And the next morning I went out with the camera and I got a picture of it. And of course, our class commanding officer on the staff, he got a call from the base general the next morning saying, one of your classes has posted their patch on our water tower. I want it down now. And of course, we had to go take it down. So it wasn't up very long, but it was up there. And that was just one of the pranks we played as class members in class 7102 at Laredo Air Force Base. Now, this was just a nattery video for just fun and recollections and remembrance and what happened way back in 1970, which was 50 years ago. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you're listening to this right now, then I'm pretty sure you enjoyed what's been going on so far. And if you're not listening, well, why am I even addressing you? Take care, everybody. Give me the thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment that tells me about some of your own recollections. And if you're not a subscriber, please go ahead right now, click that subscribe button and then the bell icon, and YouTube will let you know when we post another great video right here on David's Tutorials and Vlog channel. Take care, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.